Just outside of Houston, Texas, it's Houston Raceway Park, site of the Slick 50 Nationals. And once again, an overflow crowd on hand to take in the sights and sounds of championship drag racing, including the 6-second factory hot rods and pro stock, the 300-mile-per-hour plastic fantastic funny cars, and the quickest racers on earth, those guided missiles known as Top Fuel dragsters. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Gary Gerald, and it's great to have you along with us as ABC Sports proudly welcomes you to the first of 3 NHRA Winston drag racing events to be carried here in 1996. This is our first visit to the Slick 50 Nationals in Houston, and already we have seen great drama, we have seen awesome speed, and astounding elapsed times. And I cannot stress enough how important the concept of time is in this amazing sport. For more on that concept, let's go to our broadcast colleague and longtime drag racing veteran, Steve Evans.
The term timing is everything, folks, could have been coined for this drag racing sport. And it all begins right here with the electronic Christmas tree. Now, there's 0.4 of a second between the yellow and the green light. But to get the best reaction time, the driver's got to launch the car at the hint of the yellow. There are 2 separate elapsed time clocks, one for each lane. And those clocks start when the front wheels of the race car leave infrared beams. And those clocks stop 1,320 feet away when the cars cross the finish line and the winner is electronically determined. Sounds pretty simple, huh? There's a bit more to it. 2-time funny car champ Frank Hawley is way down there.
Another crucial bit of information the race team needs is the speed the car's going as it crosses the finish line. Well, 66 feet before the finish line, there's an electronic beam. And when the car passes that, it starts the mile-per-hour clock in the computer system. When the car crosses this beam at the finish line, it stops not only the elapsed time computer timing system, but also the mile-per-hour clock. The time it took the car to go that 66 feet is calculated into miles per hour. Now, a top fuel car at 300 miles per hour is going 440 feet per second. That means the driver will go from that first mile per hour clock, the 66 feet to the finish line, in 15 1/100ths of a second. A top fuel dragster has no transmission and only one forward gear. So what makes it accelerate so fast? Well, it has more than 5,000 horsepower and a very sophisticated clutch system. Now, as the driver applies the throttle on the starting line, the engine revs up and the clutch slips tremendously. As the car goes down the racetrack, this very sophisticated and complicated clutch timing system is set so that it applies more and more pressure to the clutch and makes the car accelerate faster. If you have that set too aggressively, it'll smoke these tires and you'll lose. If you're too conservative, it'll slip the clutch too much and you'll lose. So setting those timers exactly right, it's a very fine line between too much and too little.
A very precise art, no doubt. Getting underway now for the second round of Top Fuel. We're looking at Tommy Johnson Jr. and his burnout. He'll be going against 2-time defending Top Fuel champion Scott Coletta.
Now, Gary, Scott Coletta was the quickest of these 2 cars in the previous round, so he has the lane choice. And like about everybody, he's taking that far side. Scott, number 3 in points, behind the only 2 drivers who have scored victories this year, Blaine Johnson and Kenny Bernstein.
Tommy Johnson, a 27-year-old Charger from Ottumwa, Iowa. 2 career wins to his credit. Qualified in the number 8 spot, beat Pat Dakin in the opening round. Johnson basically unsponsored. You don't see any major decals on that machine, in kind of a David Goliath situation, because Scott Coletta, they have almost unlimited funds, and it has certainly paid off, although Coletta, who qualified number 1 with track records both in ET and top speed at 313 miles per hour, is coming back from a spectacular blowover in the last event at Gainesville, Florida.
It's the huge speed of this backup Coletta car that makes it dangerous. They don't have to be that aggressive off the starting line, knowing they've got the knockout punch at the big end, but they won't need it. Tommy Johnson Jr. smokes the tires. Scott Coletta walks away with it.
Big numbers for the backup car of Coletta at better than 303 miles per hour and a 4.76 ET. Tremendous crowds on hand at Houston Raceway Park, getting ready for more second round Top Fuel action.
ABC Sports coverage of the NHRA Slick 50 Nationals. Brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. Craftsman 2200 hand tools made in America, guaranteed forever. Only at Sears. Fram oil filters. Fram, you can pay a little now or a lot later. And DuPont Automotive Finishes, because high-performance cars need high-performance paint systems.
Back in Houston, Larry Dixon getting ready for a second-round matchup with Joe Amato in Top Fuel competition. They'll be battling a 30-mile-per-hour headwind down the track. Steve is with Scott Coletta.
476.303.
Yeah, you know, this wind's pretty strong out there. This thing's, it's affecting it. We didn't figure it affected quite as much as it did, but a lot of wind out there.
Obviously a handful for the driver.
Pilot by trade, Scott Coletta certainly knows all about handling windy conditions. Here's Joe Amato now, who qualified in the number 5 spot of 477. We saw him with that wheel stand as he ousted Promnitz in the first round. He goes against Larry Dixon, last year's Rookie of the Year in Top Fuel, who qualified in the number 4 position, and then ousted Jim Head in round number 1.
These cars are about as long as a city bus, 300-inch wheelbase. So Willie Worthader of the Prudhomme crew out aiding Larry Dixon, getting him close to the starting line. Then he'll back away, and it's all up to the driver. Joe Amato in the near lane, who has not been past this point in elimination since this race a year ago. Got to be concerned about that wheel standing problem. Oh, Joe carries him just a few inches off the pavement. Beautifully done. Loses a motor, but probably doesn't care as he takes care of Larry Dixon, a 478 to a 482.
As we look at the replay sequence on the right side of the screen, a textbook example of balance off the start line by Joe Amato. The 51-year-old veteran saw the power plant start to go away at the end of the run, but he still prevails by a car length.
Joe Amato, you just cleaned his clock. Reaction time and a lapse time of 478.
Well, you know, we had a little trouble with the wheel stand the first run, but these young Lions, you got to get after them, you know. That's what makes you get up in the morning and come out here and have some fun. But
he owed you one.
He owed me about 6 of them, to be honest with you, from last year. I got a big list here from last year. All these guys have been using me up like a doormat, and we're going to give them payback time.
Joe Amato looking ahead to the semifinal round. We're on board now with Mike Dunn. He's the defending champion who also won here 1989 in a funny car. Qualified number 11, beat Corey Mack in round number 1. He goes against ageless Eddie Hill, the 3rd qualifier, who ran a 472, backed it up with a 474 as he ousted Rance McDaniel in the opening round.
And Mike Dunn still a little bit gun shy of this Gerald Gwynn car. It blew 6 engines in a row earlier this year. They may have a handle on it. Dead even start. A lot of clutch dust out of the Dunn car, and Mike shuts it off. Eddie Hill will go to the final 4 with a 479 at 293.92 miles per hour.
And what an amazing story. The oldest active professional drag racing driver at age 60 advancing. That sets the stage for our next pair, and this is the biggest matchup of the 1996 season thus far in Top Fuel. Blaine Johnson, who we see here getting ready for his burnout. Kenny Bernstein on the near lane. Johnson, a 2-time winner this year. Victories at Pomona and Gainesville, while Bernstein got a victory at Phoenix, his first since 1994.
Eddie Hill so badly wants to run in the 460s as a belated 60th birthday present, not in this win, to 79.
79. Well, okay, we'll take that. I like the round wins. That's what feels good, especially here at Pennzoil's hometown, in front of these hometown fans. We're loving it.
Well, another Texan who's loving it thus far is Bernstein, as we see Dale Armstrong backing him up, getting him into position. Kenny qualifying in the number 7 spot, the native of Dallas, defeated Connie Coletta in round number 1, ran a 484 in that opening round.
The structure of these two teams is just radically different. Blaine Johnson, it's a family affair from the truck driver to his brother Alan you saw working on the engine. For Kenny Bernstein, it is a team of consummate experts. Dale Armstrong, Bob Brooks on the clutch, Ray Alley on the computer, a dream team, so to speak. Maybe that's why they hold both ends of the national record here on board with the king of speed, Kenny Bernstein.
So the dream matchup of the 96 season ready to unfold.
Blaine Johnson was out first, but he's no match for Bernstein. Oh my. A new track record by Kenny Bernstein, 470, a nice speed of 305.
The quickest quarter mile this track has ever seen. Johnson got a nice start, but you can see he's not hitting on all 8 cylinders coming off the line, and Bernstein is able to power past him and move on to the semifinal round. Checking the pairings now for the semifinals. Bernstein goes against Eddie Hill, and that 470 gives Kenny the lane choice, while Amato will challenge Scott Coletta. Coletta's 476 gives him choice of lanes. And speaking of lanes, the pro stocks are rolling into the staging lanes. Here's Jim Yates, unbeaten in 96. Can he keep the streak alive in Houston? Fans. Now, one driver who didn't reach round 2, George Marnell, far lane, red car against Mike Edwards. And as they neared the finish line, well, to quote a recent movie, Houston, we have a problem. A harrowing ride for George Marnell. There was a flurry of flame, quickly extinguished, but Marnell was all right, and Steve talked with him.
Appears to be okay, and this may have very well been wind related, much like a Winston Cup car. You okay, George?
Fine.
Wind get it, maybe?
Yeah. Got real ugly towards the end of the track. Got real loose. Just got away.
Another thriller in the first round provided when Mark Osborne knocked off Ricky Smith on a hole shot. His 710 beating a 706 with just a thousandth of a second margin of victory. Now, this race was won by quickness at the start. And earlier, Frank took a closer look at one way this is achieved.
Reaction time is the time that elapses from when the starter activates the Christmas tree starting system and the car actually leaves the electronic stage beams. Now, part of that's the driver's responsibility, but the car also needs to react quickly, too. Now, in a passenger car, when you press the clutch pedal all the way to the floor, you find out you might have to release it as much as 2 inches to get the car to move. That takes a long time. So the Pro Stock drivers have this stop underneath the clutch pedal. They press the pedal down to that stop, which is adjusted carefully, and then they only have to move their foot about 1/4 of an inch, and the car's off the starting line. That can save them as much as 2/100ths of a second, and at the finish line in a Pro Stock race, that could make you win by 5 feet. So in a class where thousandths of a second matter, you can't give up 2/100ths of a second in reaction time.
Keep in mind, we're talking less than the blink of an eye. This is Ray Franks now as we're ready for second round Pro Stock action. In his burnout, he'll be paired against Larry Morgan. Checking the point standings coming into this fourth event of 1996, Jim Yates, who has been the man all season long with a dominating lead over Steve Schmidt, Tom Martino. You see Franks in the number 4 spot, hoping that he can advance today.
And Ray is a steady runner. In fact, he qualified right in the middle of this 16-car field, number 8 at a 7:04. Ran a nice 7:07 in round number 1 to put out Troy Coughlin. Now, Larry Morgan barely got in the show. The bump position, number 16, and benefited from Warren Johnson's distributor problem in round number 1. Larry, like Warren, has gone to the Firebird from the Oldsmobile. It's a difficult transition. The car is much shorter, a good deal wider, a lot more glass area as compared to the Oldsmobile like Ray Franks is driving. Crewman gets a little of the tire smoke out of the car from the burnout, and we're ready. Round number 2, Pro Stock. 0.03 of a second advantage to Ray Franks at the start. And Morgan can't counter that. A 7:08 defeats a 7:10. 193 drops 194.
So the two Ohio drivers with nearly identical reaction times off the line together. Ray Franks from New Carlisle, Larry Morgan from Newark, side by side all the way down the track. And it's Franks by the eyelash who prevails and advances to the semifinal round. Our next pair, the veteran Bob Glidden, a 10-time Pro Stock NHRA champion, going against Kurt Johnson, the son of Warren Johnson, and a strong player the past couple of seasons in this tough division. Glidden qualified in the number 12 spot. He beat Tom Martino in round number 1 in his Ford Probe. Kurt Johnson, meanwhile, qualified at the number 4 position, a sizzling 7:02, ran a 7:04 to beat Jerry Eckman in the opening round.
One of the few times we'll see a Ford versus General Motors matchup in Pro Stock. Unless Bob Glidden's around, you won't find a Ford Probe. He's the only one that campaigns it. 3 stage. Let's see who breaks first. They both won a stage last, if possible. Kurt Johnson in. And Glidden off the mark over the much younger driver. Glidden with a whole shot. Glidden wins it. His sons, like the old days, jumping up and down. Glidden a 7:05 to a 7:06, but he had 400ths on the tree, Gary.
Bob Glidden, a man who has won 85 times in his legendary career, getting the job done here as we take a second look and nosing out young Kurt Johnson at the line. Let's check in with Steve, who's now with Glidden.
Well, you can't do it any better than that. You leapt on him, you outran him, a 7:05. Life is good.
I'm telling you, Steve, it's been good here this weekend. We're just happy we can win a couple of rounds. It's been, as a matter of fact, last round's the first round we've won all year.
For the hardcore fans, what motor is in this car?
This has still got the old Hemi. Probably by the next race or maybe by Atlanta we'll have the new engine in this car.
Keep it up. The fans are loving it.
Indeed they are, Steve. Bob Glidden has won here 3 times, 88, 89, the last time in 1993, hoping he can do it again. As we welcome you back to Houston, the Slick 50 Nationals, we have more second-round action in Pro Stock. Mike Edwards going against Mark Osborne in this pairing.
This is Edwards' rookie year in Pro Stock, but he comes from a great training ground. That is competition eliminator in NHRA sportsman ranks. His opponent, Mark Osborne, also comes out of the comp ranks. He has one national event victory, though, in Pro Stock, and he lives or dies on the Christmas tree. Let's remember in round 1, it was he that beat Ricky Smith with the whole shot. These cars are about 2,350 pounds, 500 cubic inches. Unlike the top fuel dragster drivers that just stomp on the gas and go, they have to make 4 gear changes with a 5-speed transmission. Lots to do. Just sitting. RPM's way up.
Nobody wants to get that second stage.
Somebody's going to have to break here and quickly. It was Osborne who finally moved in. But at the finish line, it is Mike Edwards. A 7:04 at 196 miles per hour after a bit of a burn down.
And our next pair getting ready to take the line, Jim Yates and Steve Smith. This is Yates in his burnout.
These are bitter rivals, to say the least. Jim Yates was won all 3 races in 1996 in the McDonald's Pontiac up against the Oldsmobile of Schmidt. The real battle here is between Steve Schmidt, who's an engine builder, and Yates' partner Dick Maskin, who also supplies motors to the categories. Steve Schmidt qualified number 7 at a 7:04, but got a big break in round number 1. He faltered badly, but his opponent Mike Thomas fouled out, left the starting line too soon. Jim Yates qualified number 2, second only to Warren Johnson, and had a beautiful 7:03, 196 to beat Pete Williams in round number 1. That is Jim Yates' son John, who turned 13 today, willing his daddy to victory. No games being played here. He's going to be okay, John. Identical 7:04 with an 8. Identical to the thousandths of a second reaction time. Won it for Jim Yates.
And Schmidt was coming like a racehorse right at the end, and he nearly pulled it out. But it'll be Yates continuing his perfect string in 1996. Look how close this is at the line. The only difference, the 12 thousandths of a second difference in the advantage to reaction time, Yates. Franks goes against Glidden. Glidden gets lane choice in the semifinals, while Yates goes against Edwards. Edwards, by 2 thousandths of a second, gets lane choice. Steve is with Jim.
It's a good thing you're dancing on those pedals, because you both ran 7:04.8.
No kidding? Yeah. You mean I left on him?
A bit, enough.
Son of a gun. The old boy can still drive.
With Warren out, you got a heck of a shot here.
Well, Steve's so tough. Steve is a tough competitor right now. He's the guy we're trying to run with, and I mean, he can run the ET. He can do a good job on the starting line, so getting by him. You know, I really feel sorry for Warren. He's had a run of bad luck here, but you know he'll be back.
He's not that sorry either.
Yeah, I should say so. Having a perfect season still intact. Well, along Motorhome Row, plenty of Texas barbecue cooking here in Houston. And speaking of cooking, we'll be back with the Red Hot Funny Cars in a moment.
But look what happened when Kenji Okazaki and Tom Hoover met up.
We both smoked the tires, and when I hit it, all the clutch was in, and man, she's coming up right then. It's too late again.
You okay? You hit the wall pretty good.
Like bangs are pretty good. The ball wins, but I was on the roll, no steering. I just had to pull along down the wall until she shut off.
Hoover hitting the fence made Kenji the winner.
I didn't know. I wasn't sure. You know, I won, and I crossed the center line. I got back on the start again, and then we won.
I pronounce you officially winner.
Thank you.
Well, there was no winner's bow for Kenji after round 2 as Force easily defeated the Japanese driver. And it'll be a team semifinal as Tony Pedregon also advanced. On the other side of the ladder, the only surprise in round 1, Mark Oswald's upset of Chuck Etchells, which moved him into a second round clash with Al Hoffman, who won this race in both 1994 and 95. Now, this proved to be another wire-to-wire win for Hoffman, at which he posted the quickest time of the round of 5:09. That'll find him paired up now in the semifinals against Del Worsham. And we'll have those races in a moment. But first, let's turn back the clock to earlier this day when Frank Hawley found still another way that timing is critical to funny cars performance.
We've talked a lot about timing the cars as they go down the racetrack, but the race cars themselves need a little timing, internal timing, ignition timing, and also camshaft timing. Now, the common tool used to degree your camshaft would be something like this. It's a degree wheel. It's pretty good, been around for a long time, and you can degree that camshaft within about 1 degree. That's good enough for some people, but not good enough for Al Hoffman's crew chief, Tom Anderson. Look at this degree wheel he developed. It's 30 inches in diameter. Now, what makes this so nice is because of the radius, you can turn the degree wheel very easily, and also because of the distance from the center to the outside, you can degree the camshaft within about 1/4 of 1 degree accuracy. Now, that type of accuracy is something that Tommy Anderson thinks is going to allow him to make just a little bit more horsepower than everyone else.
The continued pursuit for even the slightest edge. We're ready now for the semifinals in funny car. Teammates John Force going against Tony Pedregon.
This is Pedregon. The car is virtually identical except for the numbers on the side. And there is John Force carrying the world champion #1. And what a burnout. And this has really got the fans excited.
Tremendous run that took him halfway down the track, and that's ignited the crowd. John Force with better than a 100-point advantage after just 3 events this year over Chuck Etchels, looking to extend his domination of 1996.
That is John Medlin, crew chief for Tony Pedregon. Tony qualified number 12 at a 5:23, ran a 5:21 to beat Richard Hartman in round 1 and took out Gary Densham in round number 2. John Force, well, he defeated Ronnie Young in round 1 and Kenji Okazaki, as we told you earlier, in round number 2. Will we see a race here, or will Tony go in the tank for the boss? Johnny spent a ton of money to field a second car, and now you race it. Wouldn't it be foolish to give him a chance to beat you?
I don't know. The fans want to see a drag race, and I want to see how good he is, so we'll see. Hired my own assassin.
And how does Tony see things here? It was going to happen sooner or later. You and the boss. What do you think? What about it?
Well, you know, I'm real excited about racing them, and I know it's going to be a tough race, but we're gonna duke it out. And there is strategy involved, but you know, the better car is going to win, and it's kind of nice to know that a Kessler car is going to be in the final round.
Good politician. And to quote John Force, I didn't hire this kid to teach him how to lose. But lose he may if he doesn't hurry up. Force has problems. Pedregon loses, but at 300 miles an hour, 5.15 seconds. To the boss's 5.02 at a slowing 273.
So Force will head to the finals still again, and now we're about to find out who he'll face. This is Al Hoffman, who's been there so many times and would love to renew the rivalry with Force. He'll be going up against Del Worsham. Cockpit filling up with smoke as you're on board with Hoffman, and you can almost feel the full thrust of 5,500 horsepower. Meanwhile, Del Worsham, the 26-year-old Southern California driver, rolling his 96 Olds Cutlass into position for a spectacular burnout as well. Let's go to Steve with Team Force.
I tell you, when that thing started to sputter, his 300 darn near nailed you.
You ran 300? Who's 300?
Yes.
It ran 300.
I was running after you.
Back to you, Gary.
I think Force a little bit surprised at the power from young Tony Pedregon. And speaking of surprises, this could be one right here as Del Worsham has a chance to advance to the final rounds as he matches up against Hoffman. Again on board, taking a look as they make final adjustments, engage the computer. Steve talked with Del Worsham about this opportunity.
Al Hoffman stands between you and a final round, and that's a big mountain to climb.
Yeah, it's a big mountain. You know, we just go out and run our race, and hopefully a good race will be side by side. Maybe we'll win.
No, but to be back this far in the show.
Oh, I'm just anytime I get past first round, I'm happy right now. I've been since the '93 Winter Nationals. I've been to a final.
And that young man lives off the winnings of this race car. It's been a little bit lean lately. But Del is in this one. Hoffman clutched us. He can barely see, but he crosses the finish line first at a, well, I can't really tell you. The scoreboards have gone berserk. The crews are confused. Something has gone awry. But NHRA has a method to handle such a situation, as Frank Hawley found out earlier.
We've talked a lot about the sophisticated computer timing system used at the NHRA drag races. But as with any piece of electronics, the possibility exists that something can go awry. And if that first computer system times the cars incorrectly and displays it on the scoreboard, they have a redundant system. And this computer system prints out the correct numbers right here on this computer printout.
And thanks to the backup, we can tell you that Al Hoffman ran a 5:12. Not enough to take lane choice from John Force for the funny car final. Stay with us, everyone. When we come back to the Slick 50 Nationals, we'll have the semifinals of the Factory Hot Rods Pro Stock.
Along with Steve Evans and Frank Hawley, I'm Gary Gerald, welcoming you back to Houston Raceway Park as we're ready now for semifinal action in Pro Stock. Bob Glidden, the 10-time champion, hoping to regain some of his previous glory on this drag strip, going against Ray Franks, who's looking for his first ever final round appearance. Earlier, Steve talked with Glidden about this pairing.
Bob, in the semis, Ray Franks, I think you've got a couple of aces in this hand.
I don't know about that. Franks drilled me really badly at the last race. Gets so close out here, Steve, anything can happen. The guy who does the best job on the starting line most likely is going to win.
And will this crowd roar if it is Bob Glidden that wins and goes to the final round in the one and only Ford? Well, Franks again drills Glidden with a reaction time. Glidden all over the racetrack, has to lift. Ray Franks, his first ever national event final, coming up. 7:04, 195 miles an hour.
Our next pair, bidding for a spot in the finals against Franks. This is Yates. He's had a storybook 96. He goes against Mike Edwards. Steve now is with Ray Franks.
Racing the legend Bob Glidden, it has to be a little special.
Oh, it is. It is. It's even more special when you can beat him.
And you soundly did that with another 7:04.
Yeah, hey, that was pretty good, I thought. I mean, the car felt real good going down the track. I never seen Bob once we left the starting line.
Let's find out who your finalists will be.
Steve, thousands of pairs of eyes focused on this man, Jim Yates. He's unbeaten this year. He's won 14 consecutive rounds, but Mike Edwards has lane choice. It's a concern to Yates because in contrast to earlier events this year, things haven't gone that smoothly at Houston.
You know, Mike's running really good. He made a really good run that last pass. We had a little miss in our car. Hopefully we found it. If we haven't, we're in for a good hard run here. And it's going to come down to a driver's race, and I just hope I'm the guy in front when we get to the finish line.
And that is Yates in the far lane, the red Pontiac. With a nice advantage off the starting line, but his car breaks down. Edwards all over the racetrack, but saves it with a 7:05, 195 miles an hour. And Gary, that means we have two first-time finalists in Pro Stock.
The quickest field in NHRA Pro Stock history in Houston has produced Edwards against Franks, and Franks has lane choice, a 7:04 versus a 7:05. Here's Steve now with Edwards.
I got some words you've been wanting to hear. Final round bound.
That's sweet, Steve. I'll tell you what, no longer than we've been doing this is great.
And we're going to have a new national event winner no matter who wins, really.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know what happened to Jim, but he had trouble. But I just thank the good Lord that we're in the final.
Meanwhile, in the funny car pits, Al Hoffman's crew changes engines. We get ready for Top Fuel semis in a moment. The intensity and the pressure begin to build in Houston. The semifinal round now in Top Fuel, and Joe Amato, who was winless in 1995, hoping to find some magic, but a big challenge here as he goes against defending champion Scott Coletta.
Joe Amato not winning a single race in an entire season is a bit like Roger Penske not qualifying for Indy, but Joe doesn't let it get him down.
Haven't won a race in a year and a half or so, and second round's been a jinx. It's been like a monkey on our back, and we finally got by that second round. The car is fast. Joe Amato's ready. The team is ready. We're a win waiting to happen.
Amato away first. Amato hungry. Amato goes to the final round with a brilliant 4.70 to Scott Coletta's trailing 4.85. Coletta's car just gave up on him, Gary.
On the right-hand side of the screen, watch Amato carry the front end as he launches off that new concrete pad and gets the jump on Coletta and ends up taking the track record away from Kenny Bernstein.
Bernstein sets the track record. Amato takes it away at 470 with a 0.
We're having fun now, Steve. Why wasn't it a 469? No, I'm glad. 470, 308. Jimmy told me on the radio. He's ruining all your fun. But, you know,
the wheels are in the air.
Oh, the wheels are in the air, just nice. This car has to have the wheels in the air. That's like a Triple E ticket at Disneyland. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. You can't buy a ride like this, trust me.
Great to see the excitement back for Joe Amato, who advances to the final round.
Just a few weeks ago, Eddie Hill's wife, Ursi, threw a surprise 60th birthday party for him at their home in Texas. 150 people showed up. Earlier, Gary had a chance to take a look at the career of the man they call the Thrill.
For more than 40 years, Eddie Hill has been one of the fastest men in any kind of motorsports competition. Initially, 10 years in drag racing. Then it was 10 years on bikes, 10 years in boats, and now another 11 years back in the NHRA. He just turned 60 earlier this month, and his goal right now is to run a 460 at age 60. If the native Texan Hill can do it, they'll kick off a gigantic celebration here in Houston.
And that is one fit motorsports athlete, Eddie Hill. And Kenny Bernstein, the Texas crowd can't lose this one. Oh, but Eddie Hill can. Kenny Bernstein, a track record again for Bernstein. 469 at 304 miles an hour. Eddie Hill just didn't have it on the top end.
For every year in the last 5, this racetrack has produced new records of some sort. Here's another one as crew chief Dale Armstrong, Ray Alley, Bob Brooks all back Kenny Bernstein to still another final round appearance. A sizzling 469 at 304.6 miles per hour. So the good golfing buddies, Bernstein and Amato, in the finals.
What a day. Kenny sets the record. Joe takes the record away. Kenny gets it back, 469.
Oh, Lordy, how about that? I didn't know if it had it in there or not. Hats off to the guys, but boy, is Amato going to be tough. I like his idea. Par 3, closest to the pin wins, go home.
Save you both about 25 grand.
A bunch of money and have a lot more fun, probably.
Hey, this is the greatest final in a long, long time.
Way to go, guys.
And after our finals here, we'll take you to the Toyota Long Beach Grand Prix, where Al Unser Jr. is looking for a 7th victory.
Of the hundreds of cars that began the Slick 50 Nationals 4 days ago, only 6 remain are pro finalists. This is pro stock. Mike Edwards against Ray Franks. Just moments ago, I asked Mike Edwards, how important is the start in the final?
I had one good light, and the other 2 lights have been so. I mean, I got to do my job on the starting line. I got to get down that right-hand lane somehow.
You got to be aggressive.
I mean, you're in the finals. You ain't got nothing to lose. You got to go for it, Steve.
Gary, you could fill a butterfly net on that starting line with 2 first-time finalists. Mike Edwards did his job. A tremendous starting line advantage. The car almost out of the groove, but it is Edwards. At 702, 196 miles an hour. The crowd roars its approval. Franks, a game 707, 195, just short.
So the reaction time by 0.04 of a second. The man in the far lane, Mike Edwards of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, adds his name to the long list of NHRA Pro Stock winners. He serves as his own crew chief. He's a heck of a driver as well.
Well, Mike, you will never forget where you were one Sunday afternoon in Texas in '96.
Steve, I don't know what to say. I just got to give all this credit to good Lord Jesus, because without him, this day wouldn't be possible. So much to be thankful for.
What a parting shot, a 702.
I mean, it went a 702, but it moved around pretty good in that right-hand lane, but I just thank God for this win.
The first of many, I'm sure.
Thank you, Steve.
Taking a look now at the point standings through 4 events, Jim Yates, despite the fact that he was ousted in the semis, still far and away the leader with Franks in the number 2 position. Edwards now in the number 4 spot.
Our Fun Car finalists are lit and getting ready. John Force and Al Hoffman. Don't be surprised if the bodies go up and down. That's pretty normal in their routines. Al Hoffman was brimming with confidence after he won the opening race of the year in Pomona, California. He said, tell Force to expect more of the same. Well, John counterpunched. He won the Phoenix race. He won in Gainesville. He now has a strong points lead. I asked John, I said, Is Al Hoffman any different towards you?
He's really acting strange lately. Like, he's being a real nice guy, Steve. He's starting to worry me.
Really?
Yeah, he's being nice. Come down, told me how good I was driving and my car was running good. And that ain't
a trick.
That ain't Al. He's up to something.
A puzzled John Force trying to figure out what his rivals got up his sleeve.
Hoffman fighting for control to no avail. John Force's driving was spot on. 4.7 reaction time, a 5.05 a laps time, a speed of 294. He has won the Slick 50 Nationals.
Once again, John Force and his juggernaut team roll on. A 4-time winner now at Houston as he makes the move, had the initial jump in reaction time, and then, of course, you saw Hoffman getting sideways, and the race was over. Career win number 51 for Force. He's with Steve.
John, this has been a wild day at the races.
I'm a 46-year-old truck driver still trying to prove myself. Got my kid trying to outrun me, or my driver, and Hoffman parked on me on the start line. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if he had a problem or what. He wouldn't come in. I was setting down an old clutch he was dragging, but what can I say to the folks that pay me? We're pretty bad, guys.
Oh, yes, indeed. John Force stretches the lead over Hoffman now. Etchells, Pedregon, Worsham far behind. So Force has 3 victories to Hoffman's 1 thus far this season, and these rivals are certain to meet many more times before the campaign is over. Top Fuel final coming up. Joe Amato waits patiently.
ABC Sports coverage of the NHRA Slick 50 Nationals. Brought to you by Budweiser, official sponsor of the 1996 U.S. Olympic team. This Bud's for you. Castrol GTX, engineered for greater protection against breakdown. Mopar Chrysler Corporation parts and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. And Dynomax Performance Exhaust Systems, engineered by Walker.
They may be good golfing buddies, Joe Amato and Kenny Bernstein, but on the drag strip, they will try to rip each other's throats out. Earlier, Gary Gerald had a chance to take a look at Joe Amato in his resurgent operation.
When it comes to success through the years in NHRA drag racing, few men know more about it than this man, Joe Amato. After all, there are 5 Top Fuel championships to his credit already in the books. But the last couple of seasons have been tough and frustrating for this team. It's been since the summer of '94 at Seattle when Amato got his last win. And right now, there's a golden opportunity facing the veteran driver. He's hoping that he and his team can step up and grab the moment.
And Kenny, do you mess with success?
Well, we'll probably leave it pretty much the same and just let it go. It was somewhat safe there. It wasn't on the verge of having a big problem, but we won't give it much more, I don't think.
Here we go, Top Fuel final. Amato leaves too soon. The red light is on in the tree. He is disqualified, and Kenny Bernstein hits it out of the park. A 4.66 with a 3 is a new national record by 1,000. The earlier rounds 4.69 is the 1% backup required.
And the dreaded red light for Amato, heartbreak by 11 thousandths of a second. We're on board in real time with Bernstein, and that's a national championship run. Look at the reaction of Armstrong and the crew as they know they picked up 20 precious bonus points with that record. Steve is with Bernstein.
Kenny Bernstein, you not only won the race, you reset your own national record at 4.663. Bonus points.
Hard to believe that could happen. I can't say enough for the team. Dale, Ray, Bob Brooks, and the whole team as hard as they work. And Amato, man, he's tough up there, I'll tell you, all the time.
A couple of war horses had a good time.
I thought we had better chance if we went out and played golf for this deal, but, you know.
That's what we do in a week or so, isn't it?
Yeah, no, we'll have some fun, but at least we got to the finals.
Absolutely.
And it was a good race. Good race.
A couple of great champions there, Gary.
And by virtue of the win and with the bonus points, Bernstein vaults 30 points in front of Blaine Johnson in the '96 championship standings. Our next NHRA action here on ABC will be the Virginia Nationals coming up May 12th. Hope you'll join us for more eye-popping high-speed drama. It's been a memorable day for Mike Edwards in Pro Stock, John Force in Funny Car, and Kenny Bernstein in Top Fuel.